Thank you all for attending and those looking at the recording later. Roberto Lucchi, I'm Program Manager in Microsoft, and I work within Azure Maps, which is one of the services within the Azure Cloud. And today, I'm very excited to share some thoughts and exemplify capabilities Azure Maps provides that I hope you can find useful in the hackathon as well as in your daily jobs. So this, I will go through some slides and then I will jump into some more technical and also some code sample for you to help get started. So the agenda is pretty simple, and please drop questions at any time. I'll rely on Damon to get help on finding those questions as they occur during the session itself. So we'll go through what Azure Maps is and provides in terms of scenarios and capabilities, so that you, if you are not too technical or you are not a developer, you can understand what the opportunities are. And then I would like to go a deep dive a little bit further to the API and the method that we provide for a developer to actually make use of those capabilities. And I'd like to conclude with resources, links, material that you can use to get started. So Azure Maps is a first-party service, and we'll see that in a minute. But and in addition to that, it also provides real-time integration with other Azure-based partners, and those include AccuWeather for weather data, MoveIt for public transit, and TomTom for roads, traffic, and other different type of maps that you may want to build in your application. So we are directly integrating and collaborating with these partners to expose the best-in-class set of capabilities. And Azure Maps is very focused on providing maps that are as fresh as possible and full integration with Internet of Things. So with the power of the cloud. So those translate into kind of scenarios. They span over mobility and logistic with all the routing and traffic and commercial vehicle capabilities to Internet of Things. And you see here a screenshot of a building with a heat map. This is where most of this presentation will be about. It would be about connecting the AEC work, engineering work, architectural work with the mapping, starting from a context of a building and moving in and out at any level up to the global scale. And then we provide tools to develop both cloud and mobile and web to help reach users where they are. We also have additional capabilities that are a portfolio of data like aerial imagery or satellite imagery to analytics like geofencing and other things. And for us is very important to really connect the world of maps and location with the Internet of Things. And we call it location of things. Location is often the first criteria that that an IoT project used to organize devices that are distributed over space, obviously. So that's a very primary way to use and arrange and decide where the device should go in a project. And we not only want to participate when and help when the design happens, but also when insights can be gathered. So we provide the functions that help understand in in a live environment, what is happening, what events, what and time-space relationship occur in IoT projects. And that can be extended to way beyond IoT, but that's a very common pattern that we see. And then help make decisions in real time. This is just an example. You have here typically a device, and it can be a very big and intelligent device like a car sending telemetry to the cloud, to the Azure IoT system, and including the location of the car. And that can be, for example, used to, in combination with other services like you see here, Hub, Event Grid, and many other tools developers use to build very scalable and flexible application to create, for example, geofencing or a sort of blob storage where you would store violation. Imagine that a car is assigned to a given area. You may want to track what are the different locations and events that occur that represent exceptions to the originally designed and assigned area. And you see here, where does this come to play? You may be looking at this diagram as a user who is familiar with the right-hand side, like, oh, I know Power BI, I use Dynamics or Excel. Those are basically all systems on the right-hand side that benefit from the work that you can build out of Azure, out of the Internet of Things, and Azure Maps. So you may play a role at the very left hand side here with connecting to different important data sources that may be reference data or dynamic data, or get to more and more to the right-hand side where you start defining the business value of your work and the system, as well as what are the users going to benefit from it. Going more into the details, this is an overview of all the capabilities that are available today. We'll go into the details of this through examples more than slides, but essentially it covers maps from satellite to road data and building data and so on, to SDKs to actually help developer build the application, routing, all the form of routing, optimization, and so on, searching for point of interest, searching for landmarks, finding boundaries, administrative boundaries, all operations that you may want to do out of a search of an address, of a county or a province. We also have spatial operations that are basically API that provides analytics. Those are able to provide geofencing, alerts, calculate distances, all fundamental operation you may want to run when you receive data that is about indoor or outdoor location. Traffic, this is a layer for the map that provides live traffic information, and it provides very frequent updates of this data for over 80 countries. We also have time zone. There are systems that move or websites that need to be adjusted, or the same for geolocation. So those two functions allow you to get a coordinate and infer the proper time zone, as well as you can get an IP address for geolocation and get back the location in which that IP address is. And those are very helpful for e-commerce website, or customizing a little bit the experience, or simply configuring your app more specifically for the location in which the app is running. Mobility, This is about scooters, public transit in general, bus, metro, in terms of API that you can use to route and understand the traffic in the cities. And storage for you to upload the data that is specific to you and your projects, which you can use and keep it safe and secure within the cloud. We also recently added a few services, and you see those at the bottom under new capabilities. The weather, we provide maps with the weather data, and API that provide you access to the actual data in terms of current as well as forecasted weather data. We also support cloud in the government cloud, which means you can also address specific government business. And very recently, about a month ago, we launched Azure Maps Creator, which is the main focus for this meeting and session, and I hope you will find useful. That is basically a tool, a set of new tools to create your private maps and keep those secure, isolated from other Azure Maps content, and cover indoor spaces. In general, if you are a developer, you will find this slide very useful because it helps you understand all the benefit of working with an Azure first-party service. It comes with, as any other first-party service, Azure Maps comes with all these different non-functional specific to maps features that help a developer connect, serve their customers, deliver, and monitor the health of the solution, as well as the security. So it really ranges from system health, Active Directory for managing user identities, Key Vault, ARM for provisioning resources, to the ability to control solutions out of customer subscription. Creator will focus on this, and I will, which is about indoor, as I mentioned earlier, and I will later zoom out a little bit to help you also understand what is the potential of what we do for indoor in the context of geographic location. So essentially what we added with Creator is a set of API and SDK that you can use to create and manage indoor map data, as well as build applications for indoor maps that also efficiently make use of data that may come through a live system. And that's kind of the concept behind smart building. You get an information that could be a badge that is being scanned, and it indicates that user X has entered the space, or you have people count, cameras, or other sort of information, for example, a room that is booked, that you can use to provide more intelligent service to the occupants of the space as they come in the space, or as they are driving there and they are looking for instructions or a way to simplify their experience and journey. So what we technically provide to enable this is a set of API and service that provide facility, simplifies the processing and the creation of the data. And we know that, as you probably well know, most of the data can be already existing in an AEC tool. So we provide tools to help import, for example, DWG files, the Autodesk format. And we also provide tools to increase and augment that data, as well as connect with IoT systems or other systems that provide live information. And then once you create this map and map data, you want to make use of it. That's the ultimate goal. So we provide functions such as rendering, you see an exemplification here, as well as spatial querying and more, that you can use to actually deliver a nice experience on a phone or on a browser or on a kiosk. SDK that is basically simplifying further the implementation of a solution. So this is a little bit of a carousel of what we typically see being used out of the service we provide. There is a whole top left corner, which is about importing and managing and governing indoor map data that we provide functions for. There is a whole set of experiences that you can then build for users, for different type of users. So if you think about a smart office or any space, you may provide features like map visualization, and then functions like find this particular room, find this particular booth in a convention center, or any other, find my printer, I printed, I'm new to this building, where is it? Or I'm a hotel guest, where is the printer I'm using right now? So all functions that help a user to find the location of resources or more efficiently use the space. For example, book a room that is actually not occupied, and it could be not occupied, but still booked in your Outlook calendar, but not occupied. And it can range to facility managers. You see here scenarios where you may want to aggregate data on a space and time. And those are, for example, average percent of usage of a given space or a given room, as well as the temperature, the average temperature of that particular room. So all things that a facility manager or a space planner may want to use or study and replay to better understand how the space is used and whether it fits the need of the occupants. Asset tracking guest, as you can imagine, IoT and mobile phone provide ways to track the location, including even HoloLens or any other kind of SLAM technology. You can use those to essentially infer the location of a given asset and then activate functions that we already provide, such as geofencing or asset tracking in general. So that if a hospital bed or any asset is being assigned to a given area, you can build that. Or if you think a given area is not safe with COVID, it could mean not yet not cleaned recently. You may want to send alerts to avoid those areas. All functions that can be built using Azure Maps and Creator. Okay, so I think we're getting very close to the end of the slide, so we can go into the details and exemplification. This is a more technical view of what we provide. So you will, through Creator, will get access to different servers that run in the cloud, and you authenticate to get access to those, and that will be yours. That provide conversion service. There is a schema and a conversion tool that you can use to validate, for example, CAD drawings, DWG drawings, and additional metadata. And if everything looks good, you will be able to bring it in. Dataset service is your copy of record. That's where you can keep adding building, you can modify the building, you can bring additional data that was not built during the design phase. And Tileset is instead a service that is producing data products optimized for rendering. And finally, Feature State is your tool to basically deal with runtime live situation. Like, what if I know only at runtime the temperature of this room? What if I only know at runtime whether all the table of these restaurants are booked? That is your tool to deliver and track status and also show maps that reflect that. So you bring in drawing packages, and that is one way to go through it. And in addition to that, as I mentioned, through dataset, for example, you can keep adding information, and it can be where the IoT devices are located. It could be the furniture, it could be other equipment, or even other constraints like this particular area of the floor plan is not accessible to robots. All information that you may want to add and consider while working and implementing your use cases. And then again here, those are examples of things that can come up only at runtime. Imagine Microsoft Exchange telling you that a room is being booked. That is only happening when the booking occurs, and all these events or temperature or cameras or the location of an asset, all those information are constantly coming into the system and can be used to update maps on the fly. And here is an exemplification of how you would use it. So you have the rendering API, you can combine with all the other API we provide, and you can also provide high interoperable interfaces with other systems like OGC Feature API. So OGC stands for Open Geospatial Consortium, is an organization building standards, and this is one of the most recent standards that have been released, and we make use of it to create not only great functions and SDK, but also a way to connect to it out of other systems, or and create a larger and more effective ecosystem. The SDK provides a lot of different tools that I will go through because we have more than 200 open source examples that you can make use of during the hackathon or later. But what we did specifically for indoor is to just add a module that is that can be plugged into the SDK. So it basically comes with it if you wish to make use of outdoor and indoor together. And it allows you to basically build visualization widgets like floor picker or any sort of integration between indoor and outdoor that you may want to build. Okay, I'll pause here. I have just one more slide to conclude with many different links, but I would like to switch to the websites and live links to help you, get oriented in what we do and how you could get started. This is our landing page for Azure Maps. You have here all the pointers to the most common information users are looking for. And I will not go through all this today, but you see here there are tutorials. There are tutorials for the API itself that you can use, concepts, and I'll start with how to get started. So if you're not familiar with Azure, with an Azure account, you get access to something that looks like this, and it will help you basically create resources. So you can create databases or connection to IoT or Azure Maps or many more functions. So you simply search for maps, you will find Azure Maps, and you can click on create, and really with one click, you will be able to get a resource created. I already have one. I'd like to kind of show you the basic of how it looks and what you would want to do with it. So it's loading. Sorry, it seems to be taking longer than usual. Maybe my internet is not great. Oops. Okay. Sorry, it was a hiccup. Looks like in my internet connection. So once you enter in an Azure Maps resource, You will have access to the activity log and other things. You will access to Creator, which is basically the configuration of where you want your data to live, and for data sovereignty kind of scenarios. And you will also have other functions like authentication. So this is where you will get the subscription key, or you will have access to information for creating connection with Azure Active Directory, which is another way to create more robust and enterprise level integration with authentication systems. So you will basically enter here for different purposes, but the main one for a developer would be configure Creator for the purpose of this hackathon, and grab the likely the subscription key or integrate with Active Directory to enable the use of the API. And the API are all documented here. So if you look at the rest, you will have access to all the different API we provide with the documentation. Now, let me show you a little bit of Creator. So Creator is basically enabling you creating your maps and use it. There is a tutorial that I just wanted to point to, which really literally goes through all the steps one by one. You can't miss it. And you will get to a point where at the end of the process, you have an application and data that is accessible. We provide not only the documentation, there is also a GitHub repo where you can download sample data that is ready to use for understanding how the system works. I'm sure you will have your own data for your hackathon or projects, but this is essentially one good way to get access to and understand how the system works. And I'll start from here, so we can actually go through a few details. So we have a spec for a drawing package, which basically defines what layers we will want to work with with the system, with an indoor map, and additional metadata. So we have additional metadata that is defined within what we call manifest. And here is where you will be able to define physical spaces, logical spaces, and their names, and additional information if you have access to, or if it is relevant for use case, that you can use then later in the application. And it can be the business hours, it can be the occupants of the space, it can be who can route to that location, and other type of information that you may benefit within the application. So just to give you an example, navigable by is an attribute of every single physical space. You may define that is navigable, but navigable by not by wheelchair, but accessible to pedestrian. You may define that it is the preferred path or discourage the use. So I invite you to have a look at the spec so that you can understand what type of exploitation plans you may build out of this. So if I start from a CAD drawings, here is a DWG. I'm using DWG viewer here. So those are the unit space, those are the labels that define the names and the purpose of the space. You can ingest those layers through an upload process and a conversion process, and map those into the manifest itself. So this is basically what you see in the CAD files. And as we know that this is a very important existing digital data for map purposes, then we wanted to help your journey into creating a map out of it. If you look now to the manifest, so this is where you will see you have the ability to define the address. Here is all kind of Contoso-like samples, the levels that you have in the building, and it can be one or more, which DWG file points to which level, what are the layers within the DWG that define, for example, exterior, units, and we have more than those. You can define logical spaces and other type of information that you may have within the CAD files. We also provide the ability to augment it, like I mentioned before, for navigation, for example. And here is where you would basically create a record that allows you to augment that feature. And it can be the unit name, it can be the purpose. We have a list of values that you can define for each unit, and you can go on and define all these spaces. Now, if I switch to a very basic client for RESTful, and if you are a developer looking at this session, you know that you can build much more repeatable and programmatic ways to use this, but we often use Postman for just like simplifying and for educational purposes. So here is where, for example, we make use of the API for uploading the data. The subscription key is what will help you get authenticated and get to the data. You can upload the data, you can monitor the upload status, and then once it is ready, you can run conversion. This is where the benefits come into play, because you start converting, you get a conversion status, and then when you get to the execution of that, you will get information about what has happened, how many floors have been imported, and if there are errors, we also provide an error visualizer, which is a web application that you can use to navigate visually the errors of your that we found in the drawings. And then you can create a data set or keep augmenting the data set. This is the information that provides you a system of record. You can keep adding by appending those, and then you can create tile sets, and I will just exemplify what that means in an application. What is important, I will just stick with this a couple of more minutes, is that when you have a scenario where, for example, have live data that is coming in for your maps, you want to track that information on a map, and this is your way, as I mentioned earlier, is the feature state. So here is where you will say, I want to create a feature state, and I'm gonna track for this building or set of buildings, something called occupied, and is a Boolean. And here is the style I would like to use for different possible values. I'm gonna track printer status, and here are the values, or temperature, and here in this case is more the style. We have different styling options, but this is in this case a range or a choropleth, where you would basically define a range of a set of ranges, and what style is going to be associated with every possible information. And when you work on it, when you receive a data that is new and is relevant for the map, you can basically send that information to the system. So for example, here, hey, I'm informing you about the status occupied, the value now is true, here is the time I knew about this, and you obviously need to provide information about the unique identifier of the object in the map that you are referring to. So these are all examples where I could define a status for desk, occupied or free. I could define a status for printer or for units, where I would basically send the information about the temperature. So all those are options that you can use to query and inform the map. I'll just take here one more minute. This is the web feature service API I was referring to. This is an Open Geospatial Consortium standard, and you can use this to basically create very sophisticated queries. So you can get access to all the unit or all the unit in a given floor, or give me the mid-sized meeting room in this particular building, or where are the printers, all information that you typically may want to then expose to the customer in an application. So building an application once you have ingested data is not very difficult. This is a simple map app that basically exposes the data. I was just exemplifying earlier in CAD drawings. You can change floor, and this is your way also to georeference in a given location. And the code is also included in our tutorial. Is, as you can see, very short. You can load the modules for the Web SDK, and you will basically define what are the data products you want to use, which is the center point of the map when you want to load it, and whether you want to make use and which one of context maps. So if you want to not only visualize the indoor, but also the road or the traffic or the imagery, we have different styles and map that you can use for this. So this is basically built with that code snippet that you have access to. So that's hopefully helping you if you're interested to get started very fast. And it can go as far as this application as another example, where it is the same data set, but in this case, there is device data that defines temperature. And if I want to, at this point, I can light up information, both as map rendering, as a pop-up window, or any type of experience that you may want to build. Here, you can change map, as I mentioned earlier. And again, it's very important because it helps you understand how and why we think indoor and outdoor are important together. Because of course, you need to get to a building. You may want to know the weather and the weather forecast for energy management, or simply to guide or give options that are appropriate for the weather to the guest or the visitor of the building. All those capabilities are basically available to you through all the API I went through. So hopefully this gives you an overview of what the indoor and the creator can do for the AEC industry, or in synergy with the AEC industry. And I'd like just to conclude with this website that you will have access to, which essentially is our gallery of code samples. For each of these tile, you can run the application so that you see how it behaves, as well as get the code directly. So you will land to a GitHub repository where you can actually get the code and run it and make your own starting point. And you see here, you can browse by category. I'll just like to draw the attention to a few of these. Service module within the SDK is a very powerful tool that you can use to connect to the service very easily, authenticate, and drop the data back to a web application, for example. So in this case, all these are applications that are running that you can use to build your application. So let me give an example. If I calculate the route or Redmond, let's see if there is any major traffic, not too much right now. And here is basically the ability to not only get a routing instruction, but also the live traffic information. In this case, 8:40 a.m. Plus the situation in which we are living, the traffic is pretty light. We also have REST modules, REST service directly, so you can get access to the code that, for example, shows you how to augment the data that you may have for indoor with radar or other type of information. I think we have here infrared as an example. And again, you can get access directly to the source code. All these examples are modular, which means you can copy and paste, and you will find your way to grab one of these apps and a second one, and then combine it together pretty rapidly to build applications. And For those who have a lot of data that is already available, I will draw the attention also to check out the Spatial I/O module. This is, has been released fairly recently. And this is your module within the SDK that you can use to basically keep adding layers that you may already have about the outdoor as well as the indoor. And those can be in KML format, those can be other OGC service like OGC web mapping service. All these options are available to you to basically keep adding data into your map application. I'll pause here. I think we have about 10 minutes. I would be happy to see if there is any question or that I can help with, and then conclude with the links. So I will share, I guess, in Slack several of these links. Those are the most important one. Azure Map samples, the one I was just browsing, how to get started with a free account in Azure, tutorials, and a deep dive video, which goes even more in depth on how to create a map, how to work with Creator. So that is a YouTube video, easy to access and watch even on your phone. If you are interested in building a solution, I would suggest having a look at that as well as the tutorial. I'd like to thank you for your attention and see whether there are any questions.